Greetings, GameCola faithful, and welcome to the GameCola podcast. This is podcast number 163, and as always, you don't have to pay. It's always free. And I am your host and podcast commander, Joseph Martin, joined by...
I am Blue, and you can give me money if you want to.
I am James, and I'm not around long enough for people to give me money.
That didn't rhyme.
Was it supposed to rhyme?
I mean, ours did.
And I don't understand the implications.
How do you...
Are you dying? Are you turning
I don't know.
about to die
All right,
in the next few minutes?
Try something with names.
Let me try that again.
Names is a good rhyme.
Let me try that again.
Okay.
I am James, and I play video games.
Got it. Perfect. First try.
Acceptable.
Nailed it.
There could have been a little more creativity there. If I'm being honest.
What can I say? I'm not the creative type.
Anyways, how about those video games, huh?
They exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we talked about them a lot in a big award ceremony that happens every year, didn't we?
The GameCola Awards.
Yeah.
Yes, the ones that happen all the time in December, right?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Every December.
The GameCola
Every
Awards for the
December.
uninitiated always occur in the middle of the year because it takes us an extra 6 months to actually play some video games that released the year before.
Exactly.
So the ones we were talking about are the Game Awards, named as such because there are no other big ones that could be mistaken for it at this current time.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a fun name, right? Like, what, you got the Oscars, you got the Emmys. There's probably some other ones that I can't think of right now.
The Razzies.
The Piston Cup.
No, not that one.
But we just have the Game Award. It's not even the Video Game Awards.
The Game Awards.
Yeah.
Like, what are they gonna do when, like, people at chess do something cool?
Yeah. What happens?
Like,
yeah.
When will Monopoly win?
Yeah, I was about to say.
When is Monopoly's time? We could talk a bit about it.
40 years ago.
We had a little GameCola get together on the Discord and watched it live, but we can summarize a bit. James can't because he didn't watch it.
No, I didn't watch it.
I can only sort of half do it because it was very late in the UK when this award show happened. So, Blue, we're going to be relying on you for many of the interesting things that could have happened in case any of our dear listeners did not watch and do not know things about it. With a focus on the stuff that, like, we're not going to tell you what things won what awards because you can just look up a list, right? And that's not fun podcast. We can talk about funny things that happened, like the very long speech that Kratos voice actor did.
Yeah, Christopher Judge actually won the world record for longest acceptance speech. And, like, it wasn't even close. Like, the last record holder held for, 70 years, I think. And he beat it by about 2 minutes. Or 2.5 minutes.
Oh my
I can't remember. But he broke it big time.
Why was the speech so long?
He was thanking everybody.
He had been drinking, I believe. And he's just a nice guy, and so he's all talking friendly like, and yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't, like, if you listen to any section of the thank you speech, it would have been a fine, like, you wouldn't have thought anything, like, it's like a good acceptance speech. It was just the fact that it was so long.
There was a few speeches put together.
Yeah, it was several good speeches put together into a speech that people started getting uncomfortable just because of how long it had been going on. And like, is this what all of them are going to be like? So far, a third of the Game Awards has been this speech because it was also like the first one.
Oh no. Yikes.
That, to be fair, that's not counting like the half hour of pre-show, but...
Oh. Wait, we had a pre-show for the show?
Yeah, just like a bunch of other, like, small... This always happens. They always do this.
Well, I wouldn't know. I don't like the Game Awards.
Well,
every
how do
like
you know you like it
every
if
like
you've never even
online
Because
tasted
I
it
did
before?
watch it, and the one year that I watched it, The Last of Us 2 won every award, basically. And so I decided at that point, this is dumb. I don't want to watch it anymore. Because, like, 90% of the games on the show are games that I've never played and don't have much interest in playing.
Yeah, just like every award show. It's all movies you've never heard of.
That's
Or
true,
or
I suppose.
Avatar.
Unless it's the GameCola Awards, in which case only half of the games are ones I've never heard of. It's a much better ratio.
Well, yeah, to be fair, the Game Cola Awards is the issue could sometimes be that we had our issue where that would have been a fair jumping off point for people, which is when we all voted for a game that won the awards and none of us had played it.
I mean, that's just a problem in that we don't have a lot of people that happen to play the same games, so we can only, if we only voted for games we played, the odds of any game getting more than one vote are extremely small, to the
Right, I
point
think
that
it's like
no games would win any awards.
basically what happened was everyone heard that Journey was a good video game. And everyone was like, I'll just put it as like my number 3, right? Because you put in like 1, 2, and 3, and each one gives you different points. And so like, but because everybody put it as their like number 3, it ended up winning.
I mean, it was a good game. What I'm hearing is that we need more staff.
Anyway, that's the main funny thing that I remember. The most of the rest of it, I was kind of delirious and sleepy. The only other thing I remember is the announcement of Hades 2.
Hades 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hades 2, Bofa D's nuts.
No, definitely not.
Joe.
You've got Hades nuts, and now you've got Hades 2 Bofa.
Yeah, it wasn't really something I was expecting because
my joke? No one was.
I expect the unfunny that is my joke. But I'm excited for Hades 2. I think it'll be really good. I'm wondering how exactly they plan to further everything they did in the first one, because Hades is a nice little package, and it didn't really need a sequel, and they don't usually make sequels, Supergiant Games, and so it's really weird, but I'm hoping it's good. I think at the very worst, it'll be more Hades. And I like Hades. I would play just more Hades.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense just because of how much of a breakout success Hades was, that it just makes sense to follow it up with something that's similar. I almost wonder if it's going to be this is maybe a strange comparison to make, but like Knives Out and Glass Onion.
I haven't seen it yet.
Like, I will not. No spoilers.
Yeah.
They're two movies that are both very they're very much the same genre of movie, but there is, aside from a couple of things that can be experienced completely independently, there's not much of a strong relationship between them besides the same people made them, basically. And that is kind of the vibe it feels like this is going forward. It's not necessarily like trying to follow up on Hades in any sort of like concrete like narrative way, just that it's another game very similar to Hades in both presentation and characters. There'll be a lot of recurring characters. In the sense that they're recurring interpretations of characters, I guess. Well, it's not like they invented these characters.
Zeus,
So it's
that original character.
This is my own original character, Blades.
Yes. No, please don't steal.
Yeah, in the past, every title they've released, it has been fascinating to see how they move their gameplay forward and how they evolve it or change it completely. And so I'm thinking it's probably gonna stay mostly the same, which is a little bit disappointing, but I'm excited to see what they're doing.
Sure.
Yeah, those are the only two things that I really remember. I think if I was conscious for any of it, I was essentially delirious. Blue, are there any other interesting things about the Game Awards that you would like to talk about?
I mean, going back to the longest speech ever for a second, there's an extra layer of humor to it, because Valve said they would give away a free Steam Deck every minute that the Game Awards ran to people who were watching the stream on Steam. And so that speech increased it by, made them give, I think it was 7 or so extra Steam Decks away.
I mean, they probably tried to tighten up the rest of the... I would imagine, if I were running an award show, I would have, fluff that I could cut in the event that we were running long.
Yeah, but it's still funny to think about people who got it just because of that speech.
Just watching the Steam Deck thing, ticking up, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Ding. Yes, keep talking, keep talking.
It's like he stopped because he looked at his phone and one of his friends was like, all right, I got a Steam Deck, you can stop now.
Yeah.
Valve, Gabe Newell himself just texts him and is like, hey, you owe us some money.
Yeah. What? So, I guess presumably if Hades 2 was announced, that other games were announced at the Game Awards.
And they have names. And
yes.
I'm sure someone in the world remembers them.
I'm looking them up. Let's see.
Oh, good. I don't have to make up a game name and hope it's correct.
Oh, yes, I know this one. My friend...
No, stop. Blue, make your guess.
There was Satellite Rider. That's real. Those aren't 2 words I put together.
Are you sure about that? I don't see it in the listing of games revealed at the Game
Awards. Look at this. I have
James,
the whole list.
James,
there's Satellite Rider.
James,
it's,
yes and.
No.
James, yes and.
I don't yes and if you're potentially completely wrong. I'm looking here. I don't
I'm not
see
sure you quite understand the nature of improv, but sometimes things happen that aren't explicitly true in reality, and that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, fair enough. I'm just looking through this list. A lot of them are things I've never heard of before.
But now you're super invested.
That's because they're new. They're new, James.
Yeah.
That's how that works.
Well, they're not. They might be part of existing franchises I have heard of. Like, for example, Death Stranding 2. That's pretty big.
Happened.
I don't even know how well the original. I mean, I guess the reception to Death Stranding 1 must have been good enough to.
Oh, not yesterday. Earlier this week, Epic Game Store was giving away their free game. They were doing a different free game every day as opposed to every week because it was Christmas, and they're like, here's the thing we can do. And so the day they did Death Stranding, it just kind of broke the Epic Game Store. It didn't crash it in my experience. When I tried to redeem it, what happened? It was really weird. Oh, it signed me out, and then it refused to let me close the Epic Game Store or sign in until I used Task Manager, and then killed it with murder. And then I had to open it up again, and then sign back in, and then I went back to the page and tried to get it, and it would sign me out again. Like, everything else on the store worked completely fine, but if you did that, it did weird things.
Said no. So we've got Death Stranding 2, Dead Cells Return to Castlevania. Excuse me? What? How?
I don't remember that.
Oh, and I think there's also...
How are those two franchises in any way related? Isn't Dead Cells an indie game? How did they get Konami
aren't they
to
like
agree
a similar genre?
But
isn't
Dead Cells?
James,
a
I've got no answers
Castlevania?
for you.
Yeah,
Or a Metroidvania. That's what they're called.
I mean, there's been
Sort
there's
of.
been indie.
Well, Dead
indie
Cells is like a
game-
Metroidvania, but it's also a roguelike.
Right. Yes.
So
I haven't played it. I believe
I've
there was
played
also
it.
Metroidvanias and roguelites just go well. Like even if
I could
if
believe
Castlevania
that, yeah.
was still like as popular, like if it had never really kind of dropped in popularity post like DS times, which I
Yeah.
feel like it kind of did. I feel like they would have ended up in the Metroidvania roguelike area.
Yeah.
And they just didn't really get the chance to. But like, I mean, like what? There was
Yeah.
like the Symphony of Hyrule or Cadence of Hyrule.
Cadence of Hyrule. Yeah, that's true.
That's sort of a similar thing
Sort
where
of
it's
a
like, oh, this
roguelike.
is just
Yeah.
well, but like in terms of like an indie developer and then suddenly
and getting
integrating with a
getting a
larger
big
IP.
franchise name. That's a good point. That's a great point.
So I think the games industry has been kind of opening up to that.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Partially probably because it's just easier to vet like you had, I think before, like the issue with third party developers could be like, oh well, you know, are they going to actually do a good job? Is it going to be up to the standard? But I think with such smaller teams that like when you're like indie rather than like third party, it's probably easier to gauge, particularly because I'm gonna get like, you know, all the people are gonna make it. There's not like different departments and like one's like the good one and one's like the bad one.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. I'm kind of just spitballing there, but I imagine that could potentially be a reason why you see stuff like that happening.
I thought that wasn't true because like in Pokemon, there's the gameplay department and then there's the tree department.
And one of them
But
was
that's
slacking.
a big company. That's the difference.
Oh,
That's
you're
the
right.
difference.
You're right. I'm sorry.
I'm saying if you're trying to get a smaller company,
Yeah.
it's easier to vet. Now, I'm not saying that always works out. There are certain things that some people might say about Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl to try to counteract that.
And Scarlet and Violet.
No, Scarlet and Violet. I'm not saying there's not problems with Scarlet and Violet, but they did not they're not problems because they outsourced to development.
I misunderstood. Yeah. Okay.
I'm talking specifically about having a different studio work on your IP.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I'm just looking more at this list of games to kind of keep going here. Diablo 4, which that's pretty, yeah. How long ago was Diablo? I don't play the Diablo games, but I think it's been quite some time since Diablo 3.
I think that was 2013.
2012.
2012. I was close.
Wow. So
but
it's been 10
in between
years.
there was Diablo. Don't you guys have phones?
Oh yeah, oh gosh, that's right. Oh no.
And it turns out people did.
Yeah. Oh,
And credit cards.
There's Final Fantasy 16, although I think that was already revealed.
Yeah, we've known about that for a while.
Yeah, but maybe I presume we didn't really have a lot of footage of it or anything, so maybe this was like the big
we did.
trailer.
We did.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Then IGN is
I think they
off their
gave
rocker.
another. I remember watching this live, and John was really excited, and I can't remember why.
Yeah.
Because it was new footage of. I just don't. I don't know
would
if there was
hope
something
so.
specific about it.
I feel like we're losing. We're talking about commercials that weren't interesting. I think we need to pivot.
Yeah.
John really liked that commercial.
Yeah. Oh, real quick. There's
I-
just
I
a couple more
really
notes. A couple more notes. We have Colossal Cave, which was one of Sierra's first adventure games. Actually is being remade by Roberta Williams, which is awesome. That's really, really cool. I just saw this. That's super cool. So I think I wonder if Nathaniel Hoover, former GameCola staff member, would be really interested in that because I know he likes Sierra Adventure Games, and I do too. I'll have to check that out. We've got the new Fire Emblem game, Fire Emblem Engage, with the...
Yes, Fire Emblem Nintendo Switch Joy-Con hair lady.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
about to say, they have some interesting color hair. The new
I mean, honestly,
expansion- let's see.
I'm just surprised it took Fire Emblem this long to have a main character with this level of weird hair.
Yeah.
I would have thought they would have dipped into this well much
Reached
earlier.
Anime. So
I mean, Fire Emblem has sort of always been peak anime for whatever the time was and whatever the graphics of the consoles would allow. So-
yeah, kinda.
You cannot tell me that Three Houses was not.
Oh yeah,
peak
Three
anime
Houses was
video
definitely pretty anime. That's true. That was the first one I've played though, so I can't really speak. I've only seen character designs from other games in passing.
It's not as strong in the other in some of the older games, but it's still trying. It's still like
yeah.
This is a very anime video game.
Three Houses definitely had some very bright colored hair. Okay. Let's see. We got Street Fighter 6. That's another big one, I think. Tekken 8.
Mm-hmm.
We knew about Street Fighter 6 prior to this. I don't know about Tekken.
Yeah, and Tekken, I think.
Okay,
yeah,
that's
Tekken,
fair.
we knew about it.
A new, I think it's an expansion or a new game from Cyberpunk 2077.
Expansion. They got Idris Elba, and he's someone in their DLC.
Huh.
He's playing Knuckles the Echidna
Knuckles
DLC.
the Echidna, oh boy. Crash Team. Oh yeah, Crash is getting.
Oh yeah,
what looks
Wumpa
like a
League
Smash game.
Is real.
Is that what this is?
It leaked like a year ago, I think, as Wumpa League, and so now we got the real name. I don't remember
Crash
what it
Team
is.
Rumble.
Yeah, sure, that sounds right. I believe you.
Yeah. And then
I believe those words could exist.
The last game I see on this list that stands out to me, not because I'm interested in it at all, but because one of the Discord servers I'm in exploded with activity when this was announced, and that's Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon. One of the Discords I'm in has a huge number of like mecha anime / video game fans, and they... like at least once per week they post some kind of message celebrating that this game is coming out. I don't know why, but they are over the moon ecstatic that it's coming out. So I'm happy for them.
Happy for them.
It's by From Software as well, which is
I wish people
interesting.
would have had an opportunity to be happy about my robot video game franchise.
Oh yeah.
Cries single tear.
What franchise would that be, Joe?
James, how could you? How could you even say that to me? I'm going to cry. If you do not say psych right now.
I don't know. I think you crying on the podcast would be an interesting turn of events. Yeah, there we go. It's content.
James, you can't do this to me. You know.
No, I don't.
I hate this. I hate it here.
I refuse
James.
to yes and.
James, you're fired. Fine. I'm going to talk about my thing now. It's been like several minutes.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're past the hook. That was the Game Awards.
Yep.
I hope you had fun. Mega Man Battle Network series has online play.
Yeah.
You can fight people with robots on the internet, through the internet, both the fake internet and the real internet at the same time.
But not the Ooblenet.
Not
The
the
what?
not the Oobnet. From Jetty's Ooblets?
Yeah.
Ooblets
Gotcha.
game.
So you're gonna be able to like trade and fight with people. Is gonna be great.
There's
super
gonna be
excited.
a competitive Mega Man scene,
Which means
online-
that this just further cements the Battle Network games as the best Mega Man games.
I'm super excited. I've never really gotten a chance to play the games, but from what I have seen of other people playing them, it looks amazing.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously the platforming Mega Man games are my favorite. I did play a bit of 2 once, but and like I think it was really well done. It was just I think it was a little weird coming into it at 2, and it wasn't as much like my style, but like it felt really well done for what it was, and I'm having them all together and like being able to play through them all in a row. I think would make the experience more fun. So, but like I'm like I don't know, I really like games with like a very unique competitive or like, player versus player sort of format that doesn't really match what we had like I don't know, like for example Pokemon, which I know I talk about all the time, but like there's not really a competitively played game like Pokemon that I know about, except things that are like explicitly trying to copy Pokemon, and so far have not really had a lot of success as far as I can tell in that front. I feel like there have been some moderately successful games that have worked to emulate the single player experience of Pokemon, but not the multiplayer. And I think the same could probably be said of Battle Network. In fact, I don't really know many games that have tried to even do what Battle Network did.
Oh, there is one like game on Steam that I keep looking at that does like a similar thing.
I
I can't remember the name of it though.
Let me check, because I might know the same, because I think I have that game. I just also can't remember what it was called.
Was it fun?
I don't know. I never actually got around to playing it.
It's also interesting, and we can kind of pivot because there's not much more to say about it, because we'll talk about it more when the actual video game comes out. But it's interesting, like the way that internet technology has advanced into the modern age, like how games that only had local multiplayer are now able to become online multiplayer games. Like I've been recommended some videos about the competitive Mario Superstar Baseball for the GameCube scene. Like people just sort of figured out how to like set stuff up with that to make it to work, and I don't know, I can't remember exactly. It's not just like something like Parsec or something. I think they have like a more in-depth technical implementation of it. But now they can just have a competitive Mario Superstar Baseball for the Nintendo GameCube scene.
That's delightful.
And as time goes on, that will open up to more and more game series that had local multiplayer.
That just reminds me that we need to find a way to play Drama Queens together.
Competitive Drama Queens. Yeah, what episode? What I guess. What I'm trying to think if is there a way to tie that in to, well, actually, wait, okay. Episode, yeah, I was trying to see if there's a way to tie it into an episode, but like if it was episode 1, I can't remember which episode Drama Queens was. It was like 14, 15, or 16. It's one of the really early ones.
What are we talking about?
One of the early podcasts, there were 4 GameCola staff members who were together in the same place, and they played Drama Queens for the DS, I think, which is sort of like I think the closest, it's like a game where you shop in the mall.
That was the sleepover thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it was 2 episodes where they just played Drama Queens and talked about it. You couldn't see them play Drama Queens.
I think they did record a video, or they had like a bunch of weird issues. Let me look it up. Actually.
I listened to it purely audio.
Yeah.
They may have had gameplay footage playing over it, but I think like a lot of those old podcasts had generic gameplay footage playing over it.
Yeah.
Look it up here. It's yep, episode 14 and 15.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Anyway, what video games that so far have only had local multiplayer would you guys want to get internet multiplayer?
Ooh, I'm not sure.
Think about your favorite, like Nintendo 64, PlayStation, GameCube, PS2 maybe? And PS2 probably had a bunch of non-internet games too.
PS2 had some online multiplayer too.
Yeah, but there were probably some local multiplayer games too.
It's hard to say because those were when I was smaller and didn't have friends and couldn't think about playing games with other people, because that was such an impossibility.
I wonder if the new Monkey Ball games let you play online multiplayer.
I would
I play
assume
online
so,
multiplayer.
But I don't play them?
The target test. That's the one that everybody played, where you roll your ball down a ramp, and then you open the ball, and it turns into wings, which isn't really how the wings aren't shaped like two halves of a sphere, but okay. And then you fly, and you land, and you get points. It's also interesting too, though, like with like the Nintendo Switch Online stuff that has like the NES and SNES games. Like now those are local multiplayer games that have online multiplayer.
Yeah.
Like I've played Kirby's Dream Course with a bunch of people with online multiplayer.
Oh, that sounds really super fun.
It is a lot of fun. And there's plenty of games like that. So I don't know, it's interesting. Like this is something that I appreciate about media in this time of history in general, is that I feel like modern people of the modern age get to experience the best media of all of the times that there has been for like you could. It's so easy to play a good video game that's like 40 years old now.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if you didn't have a Laserdisc player, then you couldn't watch any of the Laserdisc movies, and that was just it. And it's also the same like with streaming now. Like there are major problems with the industry, but in terms of ease of access, it's just you don't have to like get a bunch of specialized hardware or know a bunch of stuff. It's very straightforward, if maybe not expensive, to get media from any age, right? Like I played a lot of NES games when I was a kid, but I played them on the Wii Shop channel I bought them on the Wii Shop channel and played them on my Wii. And I have similar memories and experiences with those NES games, obviously not identical, as the people who played them on the NES when they were kids. Obviously there's differences, but at the same time, like...
Oh, do you remember Jelly Cars?
What?
It was a game on the Wii Shop, and it was, like, the best game ever. And there's a sequel on Steam or something? Or is it on Steam? I don't remember. But there's gonna be, like, a sequel to Jelly Cars, and I'm excited.
Blue, I'm very happy for you. Is this at all related to what we were talking about?
Well, you were talking about how people played games on the Wii Shop, and I just remembered a game from the Wii Shop, and...
okay. I can see how those synapses would connect.
Jelly Cars was like...
I was wrong, and I meant to say Virtual Console, but...
Well, it made me remember Jelly Cars, which was a great game. I don't remember exactly how it worked, but you could, like, inflate your car tires and do anti-gravity or something.
And this is a game that you want to have online multiplayer.
That would be awesome, yes. And I think it will, now that the sequel is coming out soon.
James, what about you?
What about me?
What local multiplayer
Okay, you can refuse to yes and
online?
bits, but the podcast itself is too much.
I'm trying to just keep an eye, like... I'm just trying to make sure I understand what is being discussed.
You know what? You guys can talk on the podcast, but I refuse. Don't ask me questions.
I'm just checking what we're talking about. I've had a bunch of people trying to come into my room to tell me it's dinner time, and I told them beforehand that I was recording a podcast. Apparently that doesn't get through.
That is relatable.
So anyway, but I lost the train of the discussion. So
what's the games that are only
local
available
multiplayer games in online multiplayer?
You got it.
That's a good question, honestly. I just don't play a lot of multiplayer games because I've really kind of fallen off of multiplayer. Because
that's what I'm saying. Like games you played when you did play local multiplayer. Like, I don't play a lot of multiplayer.
Oh, I haven't played.
I
like that would be games that already have it, like Pokemon, etc. Those were about the only games I really played local multiplayer in. I never really had anyone to play local multiplayer with that wanted to. So I'm sorry, that's kind of a non-answer. I just, in my personal experience, I've rarely played local multiplayer. Online multiplayer was really my big introduction to multiplayer games, honestly.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I can't really think of any others off the top. Mario Baseball would have been one of mine. There's also, like, we have that with Mario Kart now, though, like, Mario Kart Double Dash.
Oh, that's a good
also be
one,
fun.
actually. That actually did remind. Although I guess I started with Mario Kart DS, which I
Right,
think
and I mean,
did
like, we
have
have online
Wi-Fi play.
multiplayer with 8, and we had it with, the 3DS one, Mario Kart 7.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, like, specifically the Double Dash format. I don't know. I think it would be fun to take a second pass at that. I don't think it should be the thing that Mario Kart is forever. But if they need an excuse to make another Mario Kart game, because right now they don't really need to. They just added new content for 8, and it seems like people are pretty jazzed about it.
Yeah.
People are like, yeah, no, this is good. So it's still the best-selling Nintendo Switch game. Still outsells everything else. I don't know who... I feel like I'm the only person left on planet Earth who doesn't have Mario Kart 8 on the Switch. Which is only because I bought it for the Wii U.
Joe, you're not alone. I don't have it on... I don't have it at all.
I don't.
But
my roommate has it, so I don't have to. So
statistically, if the trend continues, I think we'll just be forced to purchase this video game. Like... The number has to keep going up, and we're the only people left who haven't done it, so I guess
someone from Nintendo will come to our houses and ask why we have not yet purchased Mario Kart 8.
Miyamoto himself, dressed up in a Mario costume, will break down our door and shove the game into our maws.
Not my mother.
Your ma's ma's? Your ma's ma, not multiple ma's. I hope your mother has only one ma.
Yeah, so Mario Kart would have been the only other one that I can think of. There's not really I guess the Mega Man 7 fight mode, this Mega Man 7 secret fight mode that was made in the last 3 weeks before the game was finalized.
Yeah. That one's important.
That would be kind of fun, but I'm not really invested in that. Yeah, that's I think I've covered my main bases. Cause yeah, I mean, like, the other thing would be like Pokemon. I guess Kirby stuff doing online multiplayer, though. I guess you could do some of it with the Nintendo Switch Online.
Yeah.
But like some of the more recent Kirby games, like the Kirby games that have 4 players, I don't know if you can do online multiplayer with the newest one that has the 4 players. That would be fun if they haven't already done that. Or like Squeak Squad-esque stuff. Or not Squeak Squad, Amazing Mirror, where you could call the other Kirbys. That would be fun. Okay, I think we've exhausted this topic. I think it's time to talk about video games that we have been playing, not video games that we'd like to play or that we'd want to exist in a certain way. Yeah. So, Blue and James fight to the death over who gets to talk about their video game. 3, 2, 1, go.
You can go first, Blue.
Oh, James is dead.
Blah, blah.
Yay! I've committed murder.
I think... yeah.
Blue, this is the second time you've mentioned that on this podcast. I hope you're aware.
Yeah, alright. I'm just gonna slowly back away.
You made us fight to the death. This is not on me.
Yeah, but I didn't say you had to be the one that did that.
Okay, well, you said
strictly
fight to
speaking,
the death.
I just
that
gave
implies, up. Heavily implies.
Anyway, Blue, before we get so morbid that we get demonetized, please tell me.
Wait, we were
video games you've been
monetized?
playing in recent times.
Yeah.
I want my 17 cents, James. That's actually more than most podcasts make.
I have been playing a game known as Midnight Suns.
Ah, yes, the oxymoron game.
No.
There aren't...
Disagree.
Well, at least where I live, there ain't no sun at midnight.
Well,
certainly not multiple of them.
That doesn't mean it's not real.
If I don't personally experience it, then it's not real. That's my life philosophy.
Well, you should rethink your life philosophy.
Alright, Blue, convince me. Tell me about your paradoxical suns.
Isn't it at, like, the Arctic Circle where the Midnight Sun happens? Which means it exists in real life.
Yeah, that's exactly how a paradox works.
It is not. It is... the reverse is true. I think you'll find, if you care for truth.
See, there's your problem right there.
Well, yeah, okay. There's no fixing that. I can't do anything about that.
Yeah, there's no fixing me. All right, Blue, tell me about Midnight Suns.
Oh, it's so good. It is... I don't know where to rank it, because then I'd have to think hard about how I feel about things. But it is somewhere in my top games. My top number of games of blank all time.
It's one of the top blank games.
Yeah. I don't know what number that is. 10, maybe. 5, 3, top 1. I don't know if it's the top 1, but it is... I love it so much, and it gets better the more I play.
What happens in this video game?
Well, Lilith gets all chthonified, and she decides to make the Earth a bad place. And then...
Chthonified?
Chthonified, yeah. Chthon is the elder god of chaos. Well, actually, I don't know if in Marvel lore he's an elder god, but he is a god of chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Where did I lose you, James? This is very straightforward.
No, I got you. I think I'm with you.
All right, so there's this guy named Catherine. And
Catherine.
He's an old god who doesn't like to schedule things.
Yep, that's correct. And he made some witch lady his servant because...
Witch lady?
Yeah, this one. The one that is your mother.
Witch lady.
The one that's your mother in the game.
Yeah.
That.
So who's on first?
Oh, Where is on the third. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways,
no, I don't know.
Your mom starts having you as a baby outside of her, and you start dying. And she's like, oh, that sucks. I'm gonna use an evil book to fix that.
Oh.
And so the god of that evil book is like, hey, that's tight.
That's a very limited domain.
I'm
the god of this book. This evil book, that's me.
Well, it's an evil book, so...
Yeah, but it's still a single book.
It is like the evil book outside of the Necronomicon. It's pretty big evil book business.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, your mom's like, okay, so I'm gonna take your power to fix this baby, and you're gonna have whatever you want from me. And he's like, good, you'll be my evil slave subject. Evil, I don't know. March on the earth and bring hell. And you... That's bad. People don't like that. And so
Generally.
You grow up, and your name is the Hunter because your mother wasn't good.
Certainly not at naming. Certainly not good at naming babies.
And so her sister, I believe, raises you to, like, know magic and fighting and how to kill her. And then you fight, and then you both die. It's a draw. It's the worst draw ever. It sucks. And then, centuries later,
you could say it's drawful.
Somehow Palpatine, I mean not him, your mother returns. And so the Avengers and the Midnight Suns, who are like the magic superheroes of the Marvel Universe, are like, oh, well, someone did it before, so let's bring them back from the dead too. And then that happens, and the rest of the game is you fighting your mom. I hope that was very coherent and understandable.
Well, I'll be honest, I did understand it better than I understood the plot of Xenoblade 2.
What?
When Diana explained that so many years ago.
Oh, the plot of Xenoblade
Maybe I'll
2
give it a
is
try when I get
complicated.
to 2. I'm still working through 1.
Alright.
Okay. So, but what do you like about the video game? Aside from the suns?
It's fun hanging out with characters I love, and there are characters I love. There are more obscure characters, like Nico from the Runaways, so that's good. And the voice acting is mostly excellent. There is Tony Stark, who bothers me. His voice is... he's irritating. Which isn't to say the voice actor did a bad job, I just don't care for it. He's doing, like, half a RDJ impersonation and half his own interpretation. I'm like, they're both options. Just pick one. Don't do both. Can't handle it.
What's the gameplay like genre?
Strategy, RPG, and you also have cards.
They're just there. Everybody's like regularly punching things, but they've got like, a pair of queens in their hand.
No, your attacks and various other things can be cards, and there's a whole system. It's really in depth. I only played a little bit of XCOM, but it is like XCOM where they're constantly introducing you to like new mechanics and stuff, and it is a very well designed game. Like you just keep finding new ways that the gameplay mechanics feed into the game itself. It just keeps getting bigger, but not in an overwhelming way. It just gets better and better and better.
Interesting.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you're enjoying a video game, Blue.
It is
so rare
so
these days for
good.
people to enjoy video games. James, have you enjoyed a video game recently?
I sure have. 2 video games that I can think of off the top of my head.
That's illegal. Only one video game at a time.
So
you can talk about both your video games, James. It's fine.
Just this once.
I just played Pokemon again, so I don't need to talk about it.
That's fair. That's fair. Let's see. So the first game, the one I've been playing more recently, is this game's called Signalis.
Oh, that one.
Signalis,
I want
depending
that
on
one.
your regional accent. What's that?
I want that one so bad.
Yeah, it's a friend of mine told me about it. I'd never heard of it. It came out only about a month and a half ago, I think. But my friend was saying, "Hey, you're a big fan of Resident Evil, Silent Hill, sort of survival horror kind of games, right?" And I said, "Yeah." So this is an indie game that is sort of a top-down mix of Resident Evil and Silent Hill.
In space.
Yeah, in space, yes. With like cyborg people and stuff. Also a significant amount of German, which is interesting. That's I kind of like it actually.
The game or the German?
Both. So it's I don't know. I think it's an interesting bit of variety. You don't see, or at least I don't see, a lot of games. When games have foreign languages, or are based on foreign regions. The games I typically play are either just English speaking regions, or for example Japan. So having one be set in an area or a region or a people that speak basically German. I don't know. It's interesting. It's different. I can't understand it, but fortunately they include translations for anything that you would actually want to read. And there's a lot of similar to Silent Hill and Resident Evil as you go around exploring. I believe it's a space station, sort of, that's been under attack from some sort of mysterious disease or phenomenon that's afflicting its people. There's a lot of different files that you can read and check out to learn various bits of lore about the world and the universe. The atmosphere is really good. Strictly speaking, I don't think there's really much in the way of music that I've heard so far. I have not beaten the game. I don't even really know how far I am in it.
I did miss my chance to say, isn't there no atmosphere because you're in space?
No, actually, you're in a space. Yes, haha. That's a very good point, actually. And to touch on that point, there is atmosphere. You're in the the habitable part of the space station. So there's actually, no, I take that back. It's not a space station. It's like, I don't know, it's a ground station, because now that I think about it, I've walked past a couple entrances to a mine, and unless they're mining space. I think it's on the ground on some like asteroid or some colony somewhere. It's a mining colony or something, some sort of facility. That's a great point actually. It's but anyway, so I haven't gotten very far, mainly because I've needed to restart because I was not paying attention to the specifics of how a lot of the healing items work in the game, because most of the healing items do not heal you immediately. Like, it's not you go into your inventory, you use the healing item, and then boom, your health jumps back up. They take effect over the course of like 15 to 30 seconds. Or at least most of them do. You can find healing items or craft certain limited healing items that take effect immediately, but most healing items, you basically have to use them in, in a place where you're at least somewhat safe, because they heal a tiny bit of health instantly, but the majority of their effect is over time. So I, who was not really paying thorough attention to how that actually worked at first, got through a decent, like probably 3 or 4 hours of the game, and promptly found that I had no healing items left because I was expecting them to take effect instantly. And the item descriptions all say that they take place over time, but I didn't really check to see what kind of overtime that meant. So I was basically just using way more healing items, just wasting healing items that I didn't need to. So now that I know that, my second playthrough that I'm doing is going much better. But it's really fun, pretty tough, honestly, just mainly because the combat system is a little weird to get used to. And of course, resources are very, very scarce. I've gotten used enough to games like Silent Hill and Resident Evil where I know where a lot of the resources are, and I know how to avoid combat more than taking part in it. To the point that by the end of the game, I have a huge surplus of ammunition and healing items. But in this game, that is very much not the case. I am definitely very frequently feeling a sort of a resource crunch. So it's good. I'm enjoying it so far. I think that's about all I have to say about that game. So, Blue, you said you'd heard of this game before, at least?
Yeah, I really want it because I like horror games. So
Yeah.
I've been looking at it.
I
Yeah.
don't like horror games.
Well, then you can leave. Get out.
I respect your enjoyment and your happiness, but I have no interest in playing this video
No,
game
you have
because
to
it
enjoy what
sounds
I
like
enjoy.
It's scary.
I mean, I'm not normally a huge fan of horror games either. This is, but this is closer to the Silent Hill kind of horror games, as opposed to,
Also scary.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. It is
Disqualified.
thoroughly
X.
unnerving.
X with my arms.
It is definitely
not
heart
want.
racing. There are some heart pounding moments of just
I'm scared
anxiety
all the time. I don't need to also be scared during video games.
I am too. I have anxiety, but but I don't know. It's I more appreciate the satisfaction of getting used to the game to the point that the scare is just more of becomes more of an I don't know what's coming up next, and I'm constantly in a state of fear. To I don't know, it sort of shifts over time to become almost like an adrenaline rush sort of thing, or just becoming so familiar that it's no longer scary. You know everything that's around every corner, and that in and of itself is kind of satisfying in a way. Like with me playing Resident Evil 1 on PlayStation is kind of like that, where I know the game like the back of my hand, and so it's just more relaxing almost to play.
You've also, though, played a game that is much less scary than this game,
Yes.
James, if I am not mistaken.
That is very true, and that game is Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
sorry.
Sorry.
Oh,
Terrifying.
I scared myself there. Oh my goodness.
See, that's what I'm talking about with the yes and, James. You got there eventually.
All right, I'll be an improv actor yet. Now in the next episode of the GameCola podcast,
I'm going to have
James
to
talks about the start
unpeak
of his
that
improv
audio.
career.
I'm gonna have to unpeak that audio. It is a rectangle on Audacity.
Oh goodness. So Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I have expressed before, I won't go into details because I know Blue is you're still getting through 1, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what do you think of 1 so far?
It's better than when I started and was like, oh, this is bad.
Oh, interesting. You thought it was bad at first?
Well, okay, so to clarify, I meant like, as mentioned on a previous episode, I got into the first bit of combat and it was like, oh, this doesn't feel good.
Oh, especially with Xenoblade. Well, Xenoblade 2 kind of has that same feeling. It's a simpler battle system to start with. The way that it starts you off is much simpler, I think, to understand.
I mean, it got better once I, like, had skills, but
Yes.
press the R button and then walk into this big robot. I was like, oh no, this doesn't feel good at all.
Yeah. The best way I can describe the Xenoblade games as a whole is that they are sort of replicating an MMORPG style of combat in a single-player format, for better or worse. And I think it's very interesting. I really like the Xenoblade series combat, although I will say going back to Xenoblade 1 is tough. I don't actually know if I ever beat Xenoblade 1 myself, but I played a decent bit of it, and I've been going back. Yeah, no, I take it back. I think I saw someone else play it first before I played it. Because now that I think about it, I don't think I owned Xenoblade 1 until the definitive edition came out, which was after 2 had already released. But anyway, yeah, the combat's weird, and it takes a lot of getting used to. But I think it feels really rewarding once you really understand the combat and you get good at it.
And then they made a second one.
Yes, then they made a second one.
And it was... And remember when we were talking about video games that are very anime?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I have not played any of the Xenoblade games. I've seen bits and pieces of them, but as far as I could tell, Xenoblade 2 is extremely anime.
Xenoblade 2 is the most anime of, is the most anime Xenoblade game of the 3 that currently exist. Xenoblade
I was going to say, if 3 becomes even more anime,
no,
I think I might
actually
never be able to interact with it.
Xenoblade 1 and 3 are they have a lot of they have plenty of action-y, a little bit of sort of anime moments, mainly just more action kind of stuff. But they're, in terms of story and characterization and everything, they are pretty grounded.
You're not collecting sword women.
That is the best description of the blade system that I have ever heard.
I'm glad you appreciate it. Diana hates it when I say that.
I kind of hate it because there's an equal number of women and men. There's also sword men. And they're not all swords.
None of the cutscenes that are recommended to me on YouTube are about the swordmen.
Well, gee, let's think about why that might be for a moment. Why might...
Do you date any of the sword women? Because then it's just boyfriend dungeon.
No, there is no dating.
Okay,
there is no dating going on in Xenoblade 2.
But you want more romance, you should play Boyfriend Dungeon, because it's essentially the same game.
I would need to double check that. But,
okay, Xenoblade 3. So Xenoblade 1 and 2, to my understanding, are kind of in the vein of, completely separate stories that take place in the same world? Is that fair? Or are they completely separate stories in completely separate worlds?
okay, they strictly speaking, they all take place in separate worlds. They are separate stories that take place in separate worlds.
Okay.
So they are isolated. All
So
of the
they're
games are.
Final Fantasy.
Is it like Final Fantasy? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe
Got
it. It's a lot
Okay.
like Final Fantasy, where the games, they have the same name, and they might share similar mechanics, but they are
And there's
entirely
probably
separate.
some repeat elements.
So I didn't
like
even need
in
to
Final
start with
Fantasy,
the
you've got,
first one.
I will say this, that each game references previous games.
Oh, okay.
So
That's okay.
it
I
is
mean,
it is generally a good idea to play them in order. Also,
I'm the kind of person who just, like, consumes media in order of release, basically, no matter what. So.
yeah, I mean, I do
It's
that a lot
surprising you've
myself.
made it all the way to Xenoblade. Then
Yeah.
there's a lot of video games that came out
that
before
is like
Xenoblade.
the
Yeah.
one exception. I haven't gone through the whole Xenoblade series. I just started with Chronicles because that's the
Oh no, I was
only one
talking
I
about
heard.
every video game that was released before Xenoblade
Yeah.
of all
Oh
time.
yeah, you have to play every video game
that's
ever
That's
that
what
was
you
released
said.
in order.
Because Xenoblade Chronicles is like a spin-off series.
No.
Isn't I thought it took place in the like alternate
No, that isn't
timeline
that
future.
Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Or maybe
Yeah.
I'm thinking about Nier Automata, which I haven't played.
So
We
so
can't
there's
get into
the
this now. We can't get
Xenoblade
into
is
this
a
now,
main
James.
franchise game.
James,
Okay,
the
so,
podcast
yeah,
is
I was-
almost
yeah, I
over. We
was-
can't get into this now.
All right, give me a minute to just explain. I'll explain the way that it works just very briefly.
You have literally 60
So it's
seconds.
Xenoblade. Come on, Joe. We can extend the podcast a little bit. I haven't even actually
You
gotten
have
to
you
talk
have
about
55
3.
seconds. You have 55 seconds.
So anyway, since my time is being cut short here, apparently, Xenoblade 3, really amazing.
Oh, not to talk about Xenoblade 3. I thought you were going to try to explain
to just explain
all of
Xenoblade.
the lore
Okay,
of Xenoblade
so
1 and
Xenoblade,
2.
so it's the series started out. So there was the Xenogears games, followed
Right,
by the
that's what I was
Xenosaga
thinking of.
games, and then the Xenoblade games, which are
Yeah.
called Xenoblade Chronicles in America.
Yeah. So I
So-
knew there was something. I haven't played like the Gears or the yeah. I
From
just
what
started
I've
with
heard,
Chronicles.
those games have not aged well.
Yeah, that is why I started with Chronicles instead of going through all of them.
Yeah.
Okay, now you have to talk about Xenoblade 3 exclusively.
Okay.
No more about the first video
All right.
game.
So
That's your minute.
So,
that was your minute.
Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I love the game so much. I am actually stopped just before the final boss. I have not seen the final boss yet. I stopped to go back and complete all of the side content and world exploration stuff that I didn't get to because I didn't know how close I was to the final battle. So I was like, I'm just going to keep going because the plot is very, very compelling. And then everything, kind of opens back up to you right before the final boss so that you can get done anything you need to. But so far, it's amazing. I love it. It has improved on Xenoblade 2 in almost every aspect. I think one thing I will say, though, so I obviously have not gone to the final boss and all of this, probably story and lore dumps that will come right then and there. But aside from that, my one serious complaint about Xenoblade 3 is that I don't find the villains to be nearly as compelling as the villains of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. The villains of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 were incredibly well written, incredibly fleshed out, and are a huge part of what makes that game's story so incredible. Now, I will say this, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 as a game has a lot of flaws. The battle system is not very well explained, and it can be a little bit clunky at times in certain regards. There's the whole, there's a couple systems that are not implemented very well. The game's performance can be a little bit weird, especially when going around the menus. The menus actually are really kind of sluggish in the game and are not very well organized. But as a whole, I love Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It's still one of my top 3 games that I've played that in recent memory at all. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, aside from the compellingness of the villains in some ways, is just a better game in every other regard. They've improved on so many aspects, taken existing parts from the previous 2 games, different mechanics, and reincorporated them in ways that are even more fun and satisfying, or in some cases just less clunky than they used to be. The world is gorgeous and fun to explore. The side content contains almost zero fluff, sort of, generic fetch quest kind of stuff. They have streamlined all of that into its own system that can be completed without any sort of real nonsense or mashing through text boxes. So all of the side content is engaging and interesting in some capacity, and there's some side content that you get through it and you're like, how was that optional? Because it feels like it was could have been part of the main story almost, but that's how high quality it is. It's amazing.
That's good, because the first one is not doing very good with that.
Yes, that is an aspect of Xenoblade. That's one of the reasons why I've had a lot of trouble going and playing Xenoblade 1 after playing even Xenoblade 2. It does still have that problem, but not nearly to the extent of Xenoblade 1. Xenoblade 1 has a lot of filler side quests. Xenoblade 2 is much better. Xenoblade 3 eliminates it entirely. And it's amazing. I don't know... I am honestly debating holding every other big JRPG that I play to that standard, because they managed to do it. I wasn't sure if it was just a trope of JRPGs that they all had, side content, tons of it, and that some of it would just be kind of boring and unnecessary. But apparently, it can be done. You can make a giant, dozens of hours long JRPG with a fully fleshed out world that has basically no filler content. And that's amazing.
Things can get better.
Yeah. And like I said, and also I was saying that that I find the villains a little bit less compelling. That's not entirely true. There's, some big spoiler stuff I can't talk about that are... There is a particular point in the game where my jaw just dropped. It was one of the most incredible just cutscenes I think I've seen in a video game. Certainly one of, if not the most compelling cutscenes in the Xenoblade series. Oh my god, it really was incredible, and I can't wait for you, Blue, when you eventually get to this game, hopefully, to be able to appreciate
within this decade.
Yeah, well, whenever you get to
I
it.
still have, I don't know, like 60 more hours to put in to Midnight Suns this month, so...
Yep. And when you do get to Xenoblade 2, I've got a couple resources for you that I highly encourage you check out before you play the game, because
I will be coming to you for those whenever I finish.
Yeah, because I would argue it's a pretty good idea to get some external learning before you play that game.
Good to know. Joe, games.
I played Pokemon.
Yeah. Which one?
I played Violet.
Oh,
and
nice.
also, I also been doing Pokemon Showdown, but I talked about Violet plenty on the last podcast. I beat the game. I don't think I really had anything more to add on it. I liked the way that they did the ending, where the ending isn't really the gym leader Elite Four. Like, that's not the ending, and they did it in a different way, which I think makes sense and is kind of, if this is what they do going forward. they basically, you have the 3 different pathways, and then there's an ending that sort of ties together those 3 different pathways. Kind of like it's more like it makes sense why you have to finish all the other pathways before you do this final thing. And I think that's a good way. One of the things Pokemon has struggled with is like having there's always been multiple narratives in Pokemon games, like even from the first one, right? You had the Team Rocket narrative and you had the Elite Four narrative.
Yeah.
Like the Gym Badge Elite Four narrative. And the climaxes just happen at different points in the video game, and it's kind of weird. So, and they fixed it a bit, and they did a good, interesting thing in Gen 5 with N, and the way that they had that happen as like, oh, they had the villain team plot line intersect, right? And so that put the climax at a place that made sense, but it was also like not something they could do every time. That was not sustainable to do it in other video games. And it like I feel like the opposite of that is Gen 4, where like you go up, you save the world from the reality distorting, Pokemon monster, and then you go and fight the 8th gym with that reality destroying monster on your Pokemon team, and you're kind of like, this feels weird, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's just like, all right, that was
like
the saving the world was the side quest. The real content is becoming the Pokemon League champion. Let's not forget.
They made sure that you could play with your new toys. I appreciate it.
So I like the way that they did it in this game. I think, and it seems like this is something that maybe they want to do going forward, and I think that works. Like, obviously that you keep the gym challenge as like one major plot line. The only thing I would have liked is if the stories intertwined a little bit more during and not just at the end.
Oh yeah.
Basically, the stories end and then they all come together into one and it's more just like characters that are relevant to the other plot lines than are present in the final climax.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily have much to do with their actual like plot arcs necessarily. But I thought it was good, and I'm enjoying the post game. I'm enjoying doing the Terra raid battles. It's very jank in the multiplayer. But it is still fun, and I think it is better than the Dynamax version of the raid battles that they had. I think that if for anything, it's just because the incentives are better. Because you can get an item from the hard Terra raid battles that lets you boost your shiny odds, which that makes people want it's part it's an ingredient for a sandwich that you can make, and then that eating that sandwich will increase your shiny odds of a certain type of Pokemon.
That's really silly.
And you can also get the items that let you change the Terra type of your Pokemon, which has also been interesting. I've been playing Pokemon Showdown, so like online competitive battle simulator that has the terrestrialization. It definitely works better as a mechanic than Dynamaxing. Dynamaxing was like completely broken in any format that wasn't doubles.
Well, I mean, doubles is the main competitive
doubles is the main
one,
VGC format.
I understand why that might have been.
But it was also like super centralizing. Like every battle came explicitly down to how you use Dynamaxing, whereas like terrestrialization is a powerful tool, but it's not like every battle comes down to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not quite as centralizing, though. It again, like this game in particular, just more generally, like in Gen 8, Dynamax did feel very balanced specifically for VGC doubles. This time, the terrestrialization doesn't feel like it's as much explicitly balanced for VGC doubles exclusively, but it feels like a lot of other Pokemon are. Like certain there's now Pokemon that have certain moves that get more powerful the more Pokemon that have fainted.
Right. Yes.
And it's like if you do 6v6 singles, it's like completely broken in a lot of people's opinions, because you get these incredibly powerful moves, whereas like in VGC doubles, you're only going to have at most 3 Pokemon that have been fainted, because you play with 4. You bring a team of 6 and you pick 4.
Yeah.
So like it's balanced around that to be useful in that situation. And there's also like there's another Pokemon that becomes like really powerful, but you have to switch it out and then switch it back in. So it's weak
Right.
when you first send
Yeah,
it out,
there's
and then you switch it out and switch it back in. Which
superhero Neos
which-
Aqua Dolphin, Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah,
It's a superhero
and-
dolphin, and you have to switch it out from its civilian mode to its superhero mode so that no one sees it get changed so it can keep its identity a secret. Which is
Right.
adorable.
Wait, is that
and I
actually
love it.
something you have to do?
Yeah, it's...
yeah. I mean, yeah. You have to you send it out, and then you have to return it and send it out again, and it'll be
because it
basically
is
as
so
strong as a mega
it
Pokemon.
is so absolutely powerful.
That's
It is.
really silly. But also,
which,
that's
again,
funny
like-
that's the reason why.
In doubles, like switching out doesn't really happen that often, and it can be kind of tricky, but especially if like you're expecting it, right? Because like if you see this Pokemon, you know that that's what's going to happen. It's going to be switched out at some point in order to be useful. But in singles, switching happens constantly, so it's very easy for that Pokemon to get its power boost with basically no cost. And so there's lots of little stuff like that. But I mean, we'll see. I'm curious. The other interesting mechanic that they've added is that there's now a move that I only know of 2 Pokemon that get it. It's a 1 power point move, so you can only use it once or maybe twice if you use a Lepa Berry. And it will revive a Pokemon with half health.
Oh, wow.
Which, like, completely breaks, like, that's, like, breaks almost a fundamental rule of Pokemon, is that once a Pokemon's fainted, it's just gone.
Yeah, wow.
I haven't seen it. I've really only seen it in, like, again, it's not something that works as well for VGC doubles, but I've seen it. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm not sure it'll be, I think there's a lot of people using it just because of the novelty. I don't know if it'll be useful long term, because you kind of,
the Pokemon they gave it to they're kind of weak, so yeah.
They're not terrible though.
They're just not like top tier useful
Yeah.
in the meta,
so there's kind of an opportunity cost associated in terms of like, well, you could just, if you're basically losing a Pokemon slot just so you can revive another one at half health, that slot may be just better for you to have a 6th Pokemon.
Yeah.
Though there's 2. One is the Pikachu clone that every generation has. The other is a really slow bug type, but it can set up Trick Room. So like that might actually be useful for Trick Room teams.
Trick Room is the slowest Pokemon go first instead of fastest.
Yeah,
right?
it inverts. So usually in Pokemon, the Pokemon with the highest speed goes first. Trick Room swaps that, so the slowest Pokemon goes first. But then you also still have priority moves and stuff like that. There's a lot of Trick Room teams in low ladder VGC, I'll tell you that. And I haven't learned all the tricks, the Trick Room tricks, because there's so many setups for Trick Room. You have to have an answer for all of them, but a lot of them just rely on you understanding, like, okay, if I see these 2 Pokemon, these are their insurances to make sure that they can actually set up Trick Room. There's a whole, like, separate Trick Room metagame of, like, trying to make it sure that you can use Trick Room or making sure that your opponent can't use Trick Room. Sometimes people will literally just, like, I've done this on teams too, where you just bring a Pokemon that's slow and powerful, and you're just like, all right, if they have a Trick Room team, I'm just going to use my slow and powerful Pokemon. Anyway, it's been interesting. It's been fun. I have to be careful because I could talk about Pokemon literally forever. So maybe we should end the podcast.
Sure. I mean, I could talk about Xenoblade for another hour as well, so...
Thank you for listening to this episode of the GameCola podcast. If you liked what you heard, please sure to actually follow us on our actual internet website, actually GameCola.net. I should be more clear. The website name is GameCola.net. The actually was just a running gag for that one sentence. There's also the YouTube channel, which you can find with GC.net or at GameCola, because we got that thing working out, and I don't really know how both of those are going to work, but if you pick one of them, if you remember one of them, you should be able to find out. Though if you do use GC.net, that would be the letter G, the letter C, the word dot, the word net. Also join us on the Discord. We had 2 people show up on the Discord. One of them spoke. But we had what? We had Shandy Bois or Shandy... Yeah, Shandy Bois.
Shandy Boys.
Or boys. Sure. Shandy Boys. Is it OIS?
Can't believe
Yeah,
you ruined
I don't
his
know.
fun, James.
And B or Bea.
B.
There,
I would
yeah, it's
think
B.
B. It could be Bea.
No, their profile says it's pronounced
Yeah.
B.
Oh. Let me just have
She B.
This is
Ah.
not depending on your
Well.
regional accent.
That is
Well,
quite set in
don't
stone.
I have egg on my face then, don't I? But thanks for joining. I don't know if I'm going to continue doing this, but I've decided to do it for this podcast at least. But come hang out on the Discord. It's fun.
Yeah.
We've got Facebook and Twitter for as long as those platforms continue to exist. We may have to get the GameCola Tumblr going again. I don't know if that's a thing. Tumblr is the only website that doesn't seem like it's actively dying right now. So
Yeah.
Isn't there like that Mastodon or whatever?
I'm waiting to see if that actually is anything.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure. Just go to the Discord. Like, that's where we hang out.
Yeah. It's where all the latest you can stay up to date on the latest GameCola.
I workshop
content.
all my best tweets on the Discord anyway.
Yep.
Well, thank you for listening to this episode of the GameCola podcast. Have a wonderful time of day wherever it is, whenever it is you are listening to this podcast, and we will talk to you again next month. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
That said, Blue, I literally Googled the name of what was it, Satellite Riders?
That was literally two random words I put together because
I thought you were
because Joe told me to.
Oh, okay. See,
You
I thought you were
started
being
it.
serious, and I've been tearing my hair out this whole podcast trying to find a game called Satellite
Why
Riders.
aren't we recording this? That's so sad.
I've literally been looking it up in the background of the podcast.
That is hilarious.